New Zealand-born and Australian native, Keith Urban has tirelessly worked all of his life to become the great American country music icon he has become today. His young, brazen attitude was set for Australian country music in the early 90s, and they welcomed his heavy rock and roll guitar style. He was soon signed with the Australian branch of EMI and in 1991 released his first album, which brought him several #1 hits there in Australia. Then finally in 1992, he and a few bandmates moved to Nashville and formed the band The Ranch with Keith Urban as the frontman. They were signed to Columbia Nashville, but were only together a year and released one album before they disbanded. This is when Keith began working on his solo career. But unfortunately, before Keith could make his solo American debut, he became addicted to cocaine and checked himself into the Cumberland Heights Rehabilitation Center in Nashville, Tennessee. After cleaning himself up, he released his first self-titled American solo album in 1999, which produced 3 top 5 hits. To date, Keith Urban has received much accreditation for his musical endeavors, including 2 Teen Choice Awards, 4 Academy of Country Music Awards, 4 Country Music Television Awards, 4 Country Music Association Awards, and 4 Grammys. His life was then catapulted skyward when he met Nicole Kidman and started a family. Within 4 years, the couple had 2 beautiful little girls for which Keith is totally dedicated. But it wouldn't be long before tragedy struck in the heart of the town he loved so much. In 2010, Nashville, Tennessee was struck by one of the worst floods in our nation's history, and Keith was directly affected by the catastrophe. All of his road gear, amplifiers, guitars, speakers, and all their components were lost at Soundcheck, a Nashville storage facility used by musicians. It is now 2012, and people in Nashville are still trying to get back on their feet from the devastation. In light of this current devastation, Keith and I have come up with a special show that will help give relief to those who need it in the Nashville area. This show will be held at the historic Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee, and will be filmed live for a special DVD release that will also aid in the Nashville flood relief. The show and the DVD will be called the Grand Ole Relief. Keith has decided to donate a generous 25% of his gross income to the Nashville Red Cross, who is working directly with the city of Nashville's disaster relief. The Grand Ole Opry has a capacity of 4,400 and can even hold a capacity of 500 and room for all equipment of the performing artists backstage. Keith will also be promoting this venue on The Ellen Show, but unfortunately will not be able to attend and will have to record a backstage interview beforehand. Keith will then be attending an autograph signing at Opry Originals, the shop on Broadway. Lastly, after the show at the Opry is over, Keith Urban will play an intimate acoustic set backstage for his VIP and Keith Urban Monkeyville fan club members. During the day of the show, we have set up a series of promotional appearances so we can assure selling out at the Opry. I have personally scheduled each and every appointment of the day with total regard for Keith's health-conscious lifestyle. His first stop is to North Star Studios in Nashville to record a backstage interview with his longtime friend and spoof buddy, Ellen DeGeneres. He is then picked up by a shuttle and then taken to his workout, where he spends an hour doing fast-paced personal training. He will then arrive at Opry Originals for a 2-hour autograph signing. Once we leave Opry Originals, we will head for Keith's favorite Nashville sushi spot, Shintami's Japanese restaurant. An hour and a half later, Keith and I will be heading to the Grand Ole Opry for sound check and dress rehearsal for the DVD. Once the final walkthrough is done and rehearsal has ended, Keith is free for the next 2.5 hours, where he will be doing nothing but getting rest for the upcoming event. This is a crucial time for him to recharge his batteries before the show, and I will work tirelessly to make sure he's not disturbed during this time. At 7 p.m., Keith and I will arrive at the Opry, where he immediately will go into wardrobe and hair. Once he is ready, he does 30 minutes of vocal warm-ups with his band. Finally, at 8 p.m., Keith takes the stage. Once the show ends, he retires backstage for a meet and greet with Keith Urban Monkeyville fans and the VIPs before giving them an intimate one-man guitar show. Once he is done with this very special show, he will then be free to leave. The shuttle will then pick him up and take him to his home in Nashville for some much-needed rest. Of course, working with such demanding schedules on a day-to-day basis can be mentally and physically taxing on a superstar like Keith Urban. So for every appearance, we have created a rider with requests that suits his needs for that specific part of the day and point in time. Keith will expect to have a pre- and post-workout breakfast, as well as specific assorted healthy foods, snacks, and drinks in his dressing rooms, bus, and even close at hand near the stage. All of this is to assure Keith is met with an environment that isn't acutely draining before a show. One thing I always make abundantly clear when managing Keith Urban is that he is a country superstar. Today, he is required to make a minimum of $500,000 a show. Although this is a concert that plans to provide relief to the Nashville flood, I still have to look out for Keith, his wife Nicole, and his two beautiful little girls. I have negotiated a 20% sales guarantee across the board to Opry Originals and Grand Ole Opry. Opry Originals will start by taking 20% of the estimated income for autograph signings from the intake of that day. The Grand Ole Opry will then be taking 20% from the VIP ticket sales as well as general admission to see the Grand Ole Relief. Finally, the last organization that will be benefiting from this show will be Keith's record label, Columbia Nashville. They will be taking 15% of the estimated DVD sales. After the dues are paid, we must make sure all of our expenses are paid in full. We have to pay for food, transportation, insurance, and we cannot forget about paying Keith's band and musicians. Once everything has been paid, Keith can expect to make over $1.1 million. As you are already totally aware, this is the entertainment industry and things do go wrong. There is always some element of risk involved with putting on venues of any kind, so I have provided a risk analysis to ease the minds of all parties involved. I have carefully identified such risks as the shuttle breaking down, Keith's throat getting sore from an old surgery, and equipment failures at both North Star Studios and the Grand Ole Opry. I have weighed the likelihoods that these situations could happen as well as their impact and preferred action. Situations as small as a shuttle vehicle breaking down could have a high impact, so having another shuttle company on standby would be required. Keith's throat can get sore at any moment, but he is known for playing through situations like this, so no action would be required for this particular situation. And although equipment failure that could lead to not being able to promote on the Ellen Show would have a low impact, we would still want to have technicians on hand and even another TV studio close by that we could use instead. Finally, if the equipment goes out on the set of the Opry, then Keith will just have to play with what he has at that point in time, because the show must go on. Managing a superstar like Keith Urban isn't easy. It has planning, pre-production, sound checks, dress rehearsals, autograph signings, show promotions, TV recordings, and much, much more. As much as you would like for things to go as planned, they almost never do. My job is to adapt and make sure his day goes as smoothly and stress-free as possible while still being able to give his family a better life. You must always be on your toes and think ahead. Try and see problems before they can happen so your artist and you can have a prosperous future. This is definitely an all-or-nothing process, something you must commit to wholeheartedly. The music industry is always evolving, and you must evolve with it. Versatility and ability to adapt will help assure the success of you and your artist.